Chairman. Negligence in our education system will lead to greater repercussions in the future. The sex education guidelines were not updated in 21 years, and I'm sure you know there are a lot of deficiencies in our system, and we are only going to face the consequences. And one issue are the guidelines which were published before the Internet age. The guidelines still talk about matriculation, so the guidelines certainly need some updating. And it's also about implementing the guidelines. When you look at the 1997 guidelines, they mentioned that in 1987, 90, and 94, they conducted surveys on the administration of sex education in secondary schools. So are we still conducting such surveys? Mr. Chiu asked about the number of lesson hours and the actual content being taught. So is the government aware of the situation? Which government department is taking the lead? Do they really understand what the frontline workers are doing? As for the updates in the guidelines, can more details be given? Undersecretary, I would like to invite our colleagues from CDI to talk about the guidelines. The 1997 guidelines were only for reference, as the Undersecretary said. In our sex education curriculum, well, there are two parts. One, physical and mental health, and values education is an important part. After the 2000 curriculum reform, we have incorporated sex education. And sex education comprises of two parts. One part is about the KLAs, including general education in primary schools. The details are listed in the relevant curricular documents. Schools do not have a choice here. So this is certainly not optional, as Mr. Yip said. Schools would also impart values through seminars, talks, assemblies, which would otherwise not be taught in lessons. How can you make sure that the content has actually been taught in schools? This is the most important thing. As I said, for general education in primary schools, this is a compulsory subject. As for other activities, we would make use of external assessments and school inspections. If the values education is substandard, we would offer recommendations to schools.
For kindergarten, sex education and sex harassment policies, it does not basically extend to KGs, and also for coaches, tutors, etc. Lately, there's been concern as to whether these persons also may contravene sex harassment. And so for prevention of sex harassment policy and related work, how can we ascertain that this kind of work is done properly so as to lower to the minimum sex harassment cases?